I want to go through like how you can have a very basic discussion with a Muslim at Speaker's Corner. And that will be really through utilizing what the Bible says about Christ. So many Muslims want to point out contradictions within Christianity, i.e. that Christ is merely just a prophet. And that although economically we agree that because the Father sends forth for the Son, that the Son in this way, in this respect, is a prophet, we don't believe that he's merely just a prophet. So my question whenever starting to discuss with a Muslim is that do you believe reading the Bible, you can come to the conclusion that the Quran is consistent with what the Bible teaches? I don't believe you can. I believe that both the commentaries of the Gospel authors, the writings of Paul's epistles, and the sayings of Christ both comes to the conclusion that Christ is God. I'll go through to them very quickly. So for example, in Acts it says, "For God has spilt his blood to find the church." In Matthew 18 we find that Christ has found the church, and in Luke chapter 18 verse 19 to 20 we find that Christ gives himself up as a wager for many. So that is understood in saying that the blood, which is the atonement, is given, which is Christ, to find the church, which is also Christ's kingdom. Secondly, would be within the mouthpiece of Christ himself. So typically I go to John 5:19 when it says that for whatever the Son does, the Father does likewise. So if the Son and Father share in every same action, therefore the Son is equally sustaining creation than the Father. Now, the way a Muslim would typically respond is, well, we have different contradictions within the biblical corpus. So for example, famously John 17:3. Now, again, you just have to reiterate the same question. Do you believe that John intends to write a Unitarian understanding of Christ? Even though they'd probably hold to the same position that John comes later, between 90 and 100 AD, because he is the last apostle to die of natural causes, and that he is the only one to portray Christ as God. So how can you hold to two positions? That John 17:3 displays a monadic God, and that John 17:3 and his corpus of writings also wants to portray a later forgery, that being that Christ is God, and no longer in the synoptics do you find this hypothesis. Lastly, it would just be that if they hold to the position that the synoptics are more reliable than John's gospel, then is the synoptics in any given way of reading the text consistent with the Quran? Well, the synoptics suggest that Christ is God. You find that within the prologue of Mark, where he says that the prophet will make way for Yahweh, which is talking about John the Baptist baptizing Christ in the Jordanian River, and also in Mark 2, when it talks about how can you forgive sins? Only God can forgive sins. So what's that then? We have a consistent, reliable chain. Pardon?
You didn't put anything online? No, you interrupted me.
I mean, I only did. Not yet. Well, no, it's just because I don't have an awfully lot amount of time on my channel. I'll discuss on that very quickly. That man was interrupting me because I tried to argue that socialism and corporatism, this concept that of like the fascist economic ideology, is incredibly similar and semantically reduced to the same position, because he's a socialist. But no, I don't have any time on my channel, unfortunately, to post anything. I'm a very busy man. But yeah, we have this consistent chain of the apostles and later Paul that all agree that Christ is God. And if they want to say some areas of the Bible, or what the Muslim polemicists are now saying is a general affirmation of the Injil, then why in any way can you read the Bible? Is it not consistent with the Quran? Wait, one second.
It's not for Christians.
Wait, did you want to have a discussion?
No. S-O-C-O. S-O-C-O. Why not? I'll have to check the channel first.
Do you want to have a discussion?
Not now.
Later?
Maybe.
Anyways, no, I was just trying to challenge that guy to a debate because it seems like he's always consistently running the Injil argument. I can go into that very quickly. So my form of the Quran dilemma is that of not an internal critique, but rather an external critique. So I don't believe there's any motivation in believing that an Injil exists. An internal critique is essentially saying for the sake of the argument. Let's just assume that the Quran is true in what it says and it affirms the Bible. Well, the Injil is described as a gospel, a singular book, given to Christ. Now, the gospel doesn't fit this description. So how can we run this argument and it is consistent with the form of argument that we're running? Well, we don't assume the Quran is true. We simply take what it says at face value. The face value of the Injil is that there is a book that exists at the time of the 7th century with Muhammad. And it's a gospel that is claimed to be written by Christ. Now, is there any motivation in believing historically this book exists? No. So, we agree that the Quran has a conception of a revelation given to the Christians. The specific specifications of this gospel, there's no motivation believing is true. So, intentionally, the Quran is referring to a fictitious book, but extensionally, because Muslims would want to suppose that the Quran is actually true, then extensionally it's referring to the Bible. So in order for the Quran to be true, it has to be referring to the Bible. If it isn't true, then it's referring to a book that doesn't exist. So that's my film of the Quran dilemma. Just simply historically, in order for the Quran to be correct, it has to be ignorant on what the Bible actually is, but regardless, it's still referring to the same book. Anyways, God bless you. I still have that issue on my channel. I can't post consistently, unfortunately, because right now I'm actually the youth ambassador for Turning Point UK. So I do a lot of political stands, but I'm my own cameraman, I'm my own labourer. I have to carry all the equipment by myself, and I also have to speak. So for example, I've been recently doing stands at Camden Town. So I need to look for my own security behind my back, making sure no one's going to hurt me because I've been attacked several times. I have to hold my own equipment, make sure it doesn't get nicked, whilst also discussing with people. So the qualities of videos are never going to be consistent. So if anyone in the comments wants to help me out, just contact me. I'll make sure JC puts it in the description below, just my email, because I really need your guys' help in terms of helping me, you know, holding all my equipment, making sure my content is being filmed, just because then I really believe what I'm doing can actually be pushed further. But anyways, God bless you.
Young Bob.